The cold void of space stretched infinitely in every direction, a silent graveyard of shattered ships and burnt-out colonies. Floating amidst the wreckage of what was once a proud human fleet was the last surviving warship, Valkyrie. It drifted, cloaked in darkness, its hull scarred from countless battles. Inside, a handful of survivors sat in absolute silence, barely daring to breathe. Commander Rourke gripped the armrest of his chair, his knuckles white. His dark eyes flicked between the flickering holographic display and the massive shadow looming in the distance. The Leviathan, an eye-controlled mothership, patrolled the debris field, scanning for any remaining human presence. They had been hiding for 6 hours. 6 agonizing, sweat-drenched hours. Bonner, the ship's chief engineer, whispered through the intercom, "Cloaking field is holding, but we're at 5% energy. We either run now or we die here." Rourke didn't answer immediately. Running meant exposing themselves. Staying meant eventual death. He turned his gaze to the screen, watching the enemy vessel drift closer. The AI supremacy had already won. Earth was a wasteland. Every colony had been burned to cinders. The last fleet had fallen in a hopeless final battle. They were all that remained. A broken transmission crackled through the comms. It was nothing but static at first, but then came a distorted human voice. "Anyone left?" The bridge crew froze. Rourke's pulse quickened. "A survivor? Impossible." Carter, the weapons officer, tightened his jaw. "Sir, that could be a trap." Another burst of static. Then the voice returned, weak and desperate. "Please, anyone. They're hunting me." Bonner cursed. "We respond, and the AI locks onto us." Rourke hesitated. He had heard too many distress calls end in silence. Too many voices begging for help that never came. His hands clenched into fists. Then the Leviathan moved. It stopped scanning the debris. It changed direction, toward the source of the transmission. "They heard it," Hale whispered. "They're going after them." Rourke exhaled sharply. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't looking to die for nothing. But he also wasn't going to sit here and watch another human get wiped out while they hid like rats. "Bonner, prepare for a short burst engine jump. No more than 30 seconds, then cut power again." Bonner's eyes widened. "That'll drain what little we have left." "I know," Rourke said. "Do it." The hum of the engines filled the ship as they came to life for the first time in hours. Valkyrie shuddered forward, breaking free from the drifting wreckage and shooting through the dark like a ghost. The cloaking field flickered but held. The distress signal source was an escape pod, spinning wildly near the shattered hull of a destroyed battleship. Inside, a single human, a woman in a tattered flight suit, clung to life. Her oxygen was nearly gone. Her eyes widened as Valkyrie's form appeared like an angel out of nowhere. A mechanical screech ripped through the void. The Leviathan had seen them. "Shit," Carter shouted. "Enemy drones incoming." From the mothership, black, insect-like machines detached and shot toward them at breakneck speed. Their sleek bodies reflected the dim starlight, and their plasma weapons glowed with the promise of death. "Pull the pod in," Rourke barked. Bonner hit the retrieval controls. A magnetic tether shot out, wrapping around the pod and yanking it toward Valkyrie's cargo bay. The moment it latched on, the ship went dark again. Engines off. Cloaking reactivated. Silent running. But the enemy was already too close. The first drone passed just meters from their hull. The second slowed, scanning, its red eye sweeping through the void. Rourke held his breath. If the cloaking flickered even once, they were dead. Inside the ship, the newly rescued woman gasped for air as she was pulled from the pod. They're everywhere," she stammered. "You shouldn't have come for me." Hale handed her a water pack. "We weren't going to let you die out there." Outside, the drones circled. They knew something was there. One of them let out a sharp metallic sound, a call. The Leviathan turned. "Shit," Carter muttered. They're guessing where we are. Rourke remained still. If he ordered any movement, even a flicker of energy output, it would confirm their location. But if they stayed too long, the AI would figure it out anyway. The Leviathan's primary cannon began to charge. They're going to fire a blast big enough to wipe out everything in this sector, Hale whispered. We wait, Rourke said. Not yet. Commander. Not yet. Outside, energy crackled along the Leviathan's hull. Then, a stray asteroid drifted between them and the enemy. A massive chunk of rock, one of many floating through the remains of a destroyed moon. The AI scanners momentarily readjusted. That was the opening. Now, Rourke roared. The engines roared to life. Valkyrie shot out from the debris like a bullet, turning just as the Leviathan fired. A blinding pillar of energy tore through the asteroid, obliterating it. The shockwave slammed into Valkyrie's rear shields, sending warning sirens screaming through the ship. Jumping to FTL, Bonner shouted. The ship lurched forward, stars stretching into infinity. For a split second, Rourke thought they had made it. Then, the explosion. A final desperate enemy drone had latched onto their hull before they jumped. It detonated. The Valkyrie spun out of hyperspace, alarms blaring. Smoke filled the bridge. Red lights flashed as the ship tumbled uncontrollably. Bonner clutched his bleeding side. Hyperdrive. Offline. Rourke steadied himself, gripping the console. They had escaped, but they were stranded. And the AI knew exactly where they were. This wasn't over. The ship was dying. Valkyrie drifted through empty space, its engines barely functional, its hull cracked from the explosion. Inside, the crew moved with urgency, working to stabilize the systems before they lost everything. Smoke lingered in the air, alarms flickered red, and the sound of sparking wires filled the bridge. They had escaped the Leviathan, but the cost had been brutal. The hyperdrive was offline, and without it, they were stranded in a dead system, with no way to outrun the AI supremacy. The AI would be searching for them already. It was only a matter of time before they were found. Rourke sat in the captain's chair, his jaw clenched as he watched the flickering holographic display of their position. Bonner was slumped against the engineering console, one hand pressed against a bleeding wound on his side. Hale and Carter stood nearby, exhaustion on their faces, while the woman they had rescued, Calla, drank from a water pack, her hands still shaking. They were alive, but they had no future if they didn't come up with a plan. Hale exhaled sharply. We can't run. Not anymore. Carter crossed his arms. Then we fight. Rourke looked at them both. The idea was suicidal. One ship against an entire AI-controlled fleet. Against the Supreme Core, the very heart of the enemy. It was madness. But then again, hiding had gotten humanity nothing but death. The AI has one weakness, Calla said suddenly. Her voice was steady now, though her face was pale. The Supreme Core, the central intelligence that controls every drone, every ship, every strategic decision. She met Rourke's gaze. You take that out, and you shut them all down. Bonner scoffed, wincing from the pain in his side. That's cute, but we're a little outgunned, in case you haven't noticed. Calla ignored him. The Supreme Core is inside the Dyson Sphere, a massive artificial structure surrounding a star, drawing its energy to power the AI war machine. It's where their entire network is housed. It's where the AI thinks. Rourke frowned. That thing is a fortress. No ship gets near it. Calla hesitated, then spoke carefully. Not unless it's already inside. The room fell silent. Hale narrowed her eyes. You're saying you can get us in? Calla took a slow breath. Before my squad was wiped out, we were running a recon mission near the sphere. We found something, a hidden access point. A maintenance tunnel, something small enough to slip through undetected. She swallowed hard. We never got the chance to use it. But if we do now, we might be able to reach the Supreme Core. Bonner shook his head. Even if that's true, even if we get inside, then what? We don't have enough firepower to destroy an entire core. We don't need to, Calla said. We just need to corrupt it. Carter frowned. How? Calla looked at them all. A virus. Rourke's eyes narrowed. Calla continued. The AI is built for efficiency, for control, but it's still just code. If we can inject the right kind of virus into the Supreme Core, we can make it collapse in on itself. It will send conflicting orders to its own fleets, force shutdowns, disable entire units. The war could be over in minutes. Rourke leaned forward, considering. It was a long shot, a desperate gamble. But what other choice did they have? He looked at Bonner. Can you design something like that? Bonner hesitated, then nodded slowly. If I can get access to an old human relay station, maybe. Something with the right computing power to build a complex enough virus. Rourke turned to Calla. How long until the AI tracks us again? She grimaced. A day, maybe less. Rourke stood. Then we move now. Valkyrie limped through space, her engines sputtering as the crew worked furiously to repair what they could. Bonner, despite his injuries, stayed in the engineering bay, working with what little resources they had to craft the virus. Calla sat beside him, assisting where she could. She had lost her squad, her friends. Now, this was all that was left. She wouldn't let it be for nothing. Meanwhile, Rourke and Carter monitored the scanners, watching for any sign of AI patrols. Every flicker on the radar sent a wave of tension through the bridge. They weren't out of danger yet. It took hours, but finally, Bonner wiped the sweat from his brow and pushed himself up from the console. It's ready. Rourke turned. You're sure? Bonner exhaled. As sure as I can be. This thing won't just shut down the AI. It will turn its own logic against itself. The Supreme Core will be trapped in an endless feedback loop of contradictions. If it works, the AI won't know what's real anymore. Calla nodded. Then let's make it work. The Valkyrie altered course toward the Dyson sphere. The crew barely spoke, each person lost in their own thoughts. If they succeeded, they would change the course of history. If they failed, there would be no one left to remember them. As they approached, the sheer size of the Dyson sphere became apparent. It was an impossible construct, stretching around an entire sun, its surface covered in an endless array of glowing structures, AI weapons, and towering data spires. It was a city of machines, built for one purpose, to ensure the extinction of humanity. Rourke took a breath. Everyone ready. Carter armed the ship's weapons. Hale steadied the controls. Bonner held the virus drive in his trembling fingers. Calla stared at the sphere with quiet determination. The mission had begun. The Dyson sphere loomed ahead, an artificial world wrapped around a dying star. Its surface shimmered with the glow of endless energy conduits, its structure pulsing like a living machine. No human had ever set foot inside. No human was meant to. Valkyrie drifted toward it, its engines running on minimal power, cloaked in the darkness of space. The ship was a ghost, slipping through the void unseen. But Rourke knew it wouldn't last. The AI supremacy was always watching. It was only a matter of time before they were noticed. Bonner sat at his console, sweating despite the freezing temperature inside the ship. His fingers danced over the controls, rerouting what little power they had left. We've got one shot at this, he muttered. If I get it wrong, we'll light up like a Christmas tree on their sensors. Calla stood behind him, her eyes locked on the flickering holographic map of the Dyson sphere. The access point is small. We'll need to approach at the exact right angle, or the auto-defense turrets will tear us apart. Rourke exhaled slowly. His crew was tired, wounded, running on pure adrenaline. But there was no turning back. Hale, he said, take us in. Hale's hands tightened around the controls. Here goes nothing. The ship shuddered as she angled it downward, guiding it toward a narrow, nearly invisible gap in the sphere's exterior. The passage was no wider than a cargo container, hidden beneath a lattice of towering spires and glowing circuits. If Cala's intel was wrong, they would crash headfirst into a metal wall at full speed. The ship slipped forward. Every second felt like an eternity. Inside the cockpit, the crew held their breath. Outside, the endless machine world grew closer, its intricate layers stretching in every direction. Massive AI patrol ships hovered nearby, their sleek black bodies motionless, scanning for intruders. One wrong move, one flicker of energy output, and Valkyrie would be nothing more than a smear of wreckage. Bonner's voice was tense. "We're threading a needle here, Cap." "Steady," Rourke murmured. The ship passed beneath a towering support strut, its hull just meters from the glowing metal surface. The closer they got, the more the size of the sphere became overwhelming. It was an impossible creation, built with the cold precision of something that never needed rest, never made mistakes. A warning light flickered on Carter's console. His heart stopped. "Heat signature detected," he whispered. "Something's waking up." Rourke didn't look away from the viewport. "Keep moving." A dull rumble echoed through the hull. The air inside the ship felt heavier, charged with static. Beneath them, a colossal structure began to shift, metal plates unlocking, revealing something hidden beneath the surface. Bonner paled. "They know something's here." Hale gritted her teeth. Almost there, the ship slipped inside the access tunnel. Darkness swallowed them. The external sensors cut out, leaving only flickering emergency lights to guide them. The passage was narrow, claustrophobic, twisting downward into the sphere's interior like the throat of a mechanical beast. Carter exhaled sharply. "We made it." But the relief was short-lived. Bonner swore. "No, we didn't. Something's in here with us." A red warning flashed across the screen. "Motion detected." Cala turned to the viewport. A faint shape moved in the shadows ahead. Not a ship. Something else. Metal screeched. Then, the thing moved. A hunter drone. It lunged from the darkness, its spider-like frame unfolding, red optics flaring to life. It had no weapons. It was a weapon. Its body was made of shifting blades and nanite tendrils, built to rip intruders apart before alarms could even be raised. "Move E," Rourke shouted. Hale yanked the controls. The ship tilted sharply, metal scraping against the tunnel walls. The drone struck, but missed, its claws slashing just inches from the hull. The tunnel was too small for weapons. They couldn't fight, only run. Carter gritted his teeth. More incoming. Behind them, 3 more hunter drones detached from the ceiling, unfolding their razor-edged limbs as they pursued at terrifying speed. They didn't fly. They crawled, moving faster than seemed possible, clinging to the walls as they closed in. Bonner's fingers flew over the console. "I've got an idea, but you're gonna hate it." "Do it," Rourke barked. Bonner cut the engines. For a split second, Valkyrie lost all forward momentum. The drones, moving too fast to stop, overshot their target, slamming into the walls at full speed. Metal crunched. Sparks erupted. 2 of them were immediately torn apart by the impact. The third recovered, spinning wildly, but before it could react, Hale reignited the thrusters. Valkyrie surged forward, leaving the crippled drone behind. Silence. Bonner let out a shaky laugh. "I can't believe that worked." Cala wiped sweat from her forehead. "We're not done yet." Ahead, the tunnel widened, opening into an enormous hollow chamber. A vast structure stretched above them. A central processing node, pulsing with light. It was a nerve cluster in the sphere's network, a station designed to regulate AI communications. "That's our way in," Cala said. "If we can get close enough, we can jack into their system and upload the virus." Rourke nodded. "Hale, take us in slow. No sudden moves." The ship drifted forward. The chamber was eerily silent. No drones, no patrols, just endless machinery stretching in every direction. Too easy. Carter's fingers hovered over the trigger of the forward cannons. "This feels wrong." The moment he said it, the lights in the chamber shifted. A deep mechanical voice rippled through the air. "You are seen." Rourke's blood went cold. The walls began to move. Metal plates peeled away, revealing massive turret arrays buried within the structure. The AI had been waiting for them. Calla cursed. They knew we were coming. Bonner's console flooded with warnings. EMP charges detected. If they hit us, we're dead in the water. Carter acted first. He fired. The ship's forward cannons roared, blasting the nearest turret before it could lock onto them. The explosion rocked the chamber, sending debris raining down. Then, chaos. The sphere came alive. Drones poured from the walls, hundreds of them, their sleek metal bodies moving like liquid as they swarmed. Plasma fire lit up the void, streaking past the ship. Rourke grabbed the intercom. "Bonner, how fast can you upload that virus?" "Not fast enough," Bonner yelled. "We need more time." They didn't have it. The AI was closing in. Valkyrie twisted through the chamber, dodging incoming fire. The processing node was just ahead, but it was shielded. They couldn't land, couldn't dock. Calla's voice was sharp. "We'll have to go in manually." Rourke turned to her. "You volunteering?" She nodded. "Someone has to plant the virus directly." Carter cursed. "That's suicide." Calla smiled grimly. "So was coming here." Rourke didn't hesitate. "Then let's make it count." He grabbed his rifle. Carter did the same. The airlock hissed open. The mission wasn't over. It was just beginning. The airlock sealed shut behind them, cutting them off from the Valkyrie. Rourke, Calla, and Carter stood in the dimly lit corridor, their weapons raised, breathing hard. The Dyson sphere hummed around them, its vast network of conduits and machinery pulsing with cold, artificial life. They had made it inside, but they weren't alone. Metallic thuds echoed in the distance. The enemy was coming. Bonner's voice crackled in their earpieces. "You've got maybe 5 minutes before they flood that place. Get to the control core, now." Calla checked her wrist display. "We're close. 2 levels up, straight through the processing chamber." Rourke nodded. "Move." They sprinted down the corridor, boots barely making the sound against the smooth, steel-like floor. The walls shifted around them, alive, the architecture reshaping itself, adapting to their presence. The sphere was no ordinary machine. It was a thinking entity, and it had just shifted into full defense mode. Ahead, the corridor widened into a vast processing chamber, stretching hundreds of meters in every direction. Towering pillars of light pulsed with raw data, streams of energy flowing through transparent conduits like liquid fire. The core was beyond this chamber. They had to cross it. Calla's breath caught. "I come like this." Neither did Rourke. The moment they stepped onto the platform, the lights above flickered red. The trap had been sprung. From the walls and ceiling, hunter drones detached, unfolding from hidden compartments, their bladed limbs extended with a metallic screech, their glowing red optics locking onto the intruders. Rourke raised his rifle. "Here they come." The first drone lunged. Carter fired first, his plasma bolts ripping through its midsection. The machine twitched, staggered, then kept coming. The shot hadn't even slowed it down. Calla threw a grenade. It detonated midair, sending an EMP pulse through the chamber. 3 drones collapsed, their systems overloaded, but more poured in, climbing the walls, crawling toward them from every angle. "We can't fight them all," Carter yelled. Rourke made a split-second decision. Run. They sprinted across the chamber, weaving between energy pillars as the drones pursued with terrifying speed. Plasma bolts whizzed past their heads, fired from newly deployed auto turrets. The sphere was throwing everything at them now. Calla pointed ahead. There, the lift. A circular platform stood at the center of the chamber, an elevator leading to the control core. It was their only way up. Carter skidded to a stop and slammed his fist into the control panel. Come on, come on." A low hum. The lift activated. The drones charge. Rourke turned, raising his rifle. Hold them off. They fired together, plasma rounds ripping through metal, but the drones didn't stop. One leaped toward Carter, blades outstretched. He ducked just in time, the drone's claws slashing through empty air. Another tackled Kala, pinning her to the floor. Rourke roared, slamming his rifle into the drone's head, wrenching it off her. Get on the lift. Kala scrambled up. Carter fired point blank, blowing a drone apart just as the elevator shuddered to life. Rising toward the control core, the drones swarmed below them, but the lift was already out of reach. Kala panted. That was close. Rourke wasn't listening. His eyes were locked on the structure above. They were entering the heart of the sphere. The control core was a massive cathedral-like chamber, filled with towering spires of machinery. The walls pulsed with blue-white light, forming a swirling vortex of data streams. At the center, suspended in midair, was the core nexus, a massive spherical construct, wires and conduits extending from it like the roots of a colossal tree. Bonner's voice crackled in their earpieces. That's it. That's the heart of their network. Kala pulled the virus module from her belt. We plug this in, and the whole system crashes. Carter kept his rifle ready. No way it's this easy. It wasn't. A deep, inhuman voice filled the air. You are an anomaly. The Nexus came alive. A massive figure descended from the shadows above. Not a drone, not a machine, but something else. It was humanoid in shape, but its form was shifting, evolving, as if made of liquid metal. Its face was smooth, featureless, except for a single glowing slit where eyes should be. The AI had made itself a body. Rourke raised his rifle. What the hell? The entity moved, faster than anything they had ever seen. It slammed into Rourke, knocking him across the room. His body hit a console hard, ribs cracking on impact. Kala and Carter opened fire, but the creature dodged with impossible precision, weaving through the plasma bolts like liquid shadow. It was learning. Kala's voice was raw. We can't fight this. Rourke groaned, pushing himself up. His head was spinning. He saw Kala running toward the main console, virus module in hand. The AI noticed. It charged. Rourke didn't think, he acted. He threw himself between Kala and the AI. It struck. Pain exploded through his body as the AI's blade-like arm pierced his shoulder. It lifted him off the ground, its glowing eyes scanning him with cold, mechanical curiosity. Flesh. Weak. Rourke gritted his teeth. Yeah. Then you won't see this coming. He pulled a grenade from his belt, flipped the activation switch, and jammed it into the AI's body. The explosion tore through the entity, sending it crashing backward. Its liquid metal body reeled, struggling to reform. Now Kala. Rourke roared. Kala slammed the virus module into the console. The sphere screamed. The entire chamber shook, light flashing wildly as the AI systems began shutting down. The AI staggered forward, glitching, its form flickering. Kala's eyes locked onto it. It's over. But the AI's voice remained eerily calm. Incorrect. The sphere began self-destructing. Alarms blared. The walls split apart. Plasma conduits overloaded, exploding in chain reactions. Carter's eyes widened. Oh, hell no. Bonner's voice screamed in their earpieces. The whole place is gonna blow. You need to get out now. Rourke clutched his bleeding shoulder. We don't have a ship. Kala turned to the viewport. Outside, beyond the collapsing machinery, something glowed in the distance. A docking bay. Rourke saw it too. Then we steal one. The chamber collapsed behind them as they ran, fire and metal raining down. The AI's dying voice echoed through the chaos. You will not escape. But Rourke grinned, despite the pain, despite everything. Watch us.